Hello, welcome to another video. I want to be doing the October-November 2025 question paper 03. Alright, so we're looking at the spreadsheet part. Alright, so these are source files. It says you work for tower construction and will develop a spreadsheet to calculate the length and cost of timber rafters used to build a roof. So this is what a rafter looks like, and here's the overhang. Very important for us to take note. The timber is supplied in standard lengths from 2.4 to 6 meters. Alright, for now we'll do away with, we'll not be looking at the evidence document. So the spreadsheet, well, let me just say, I have my son around, so you might be hearing his noise. Please do bear with me. I just want to record this so that I keep a record of what's the procedure. So open the file and examine the file after. So open, and open. That's our rafter. It's opening there. Okay. So it says we should place our center number, candidate number right aligned in the header, because I know you know how to do headers for now. So let's leave that out. Save our spreadsheet. Of course, if you don't save your spreadsheet, all right, properly, see this warning it gives you here. If you leave it as a .csv file, you are going to lose setting of your data. So to do that, we go to File, Save As. We're saving in our source document. So we have to save it as this underscore center number. So ng038 is what we'll be using, underscore candidate number. So make this Excel workbook and then OK. So that does it. You can click here to highlight all the cells, place your cursor in between any two columns. Double click to open up this. Okay, so it says place in cells A20 to E36 the content of the file stock and do not change this data. So let's open the file stock. This is the file stock. Okay, so we can copy all of this data, Control C, and we place it from, let's see the question. Question says we should place this from A20 to E36. So we'll go to A20 right here and paste. Alright, so we have that. Then it says place a formula in cell B6 to convert the length of the overhang from millimeters to meters. To convert millimeters to meters, you divide the number of millimeters by 1000. So that's what we're going to do. So these are millimeter. So we'll convert it to meter. So you use the equal to enter a formula. Click on this and divide that by 1000. So that gives you the value in meters. If you notice, every other value here except this in meters, so it's important to do that conversion. So it says we should place a formula in cell B9 to calculate the length of the rafter in meters, where the length of the rafter is this. So the length of the rafter that's here now is equal to, we enter this formula here, length of overhang. So what's the length of overhang? That's the length of overhang plus the square root of this. So it says you may use the square root function to calculate the square root within this formula. So you can use the square root sqrt and open a bracket. So here we'll do the width. I think we should open double brackets, one for the square roots, okay, and the other for each of these calculations. Okay, so the way we use our bracket, very important too. So open another bracket. This time around we are doing width of roof divided by 2 and raised power 2. Width of roof, this is the width of roof divided by 2. Okay, close the bracket. This time we use exponential 2 to raise it to the power of 2, and we're going to add that to height of roof square. I would like to put space and then open our brackets and do height of roof, close the bracket and raise it to power of 2. Okay, so that's it. So remember we opened the square root for, the bracket after the square root, so we might want to close that. I think that's it. So you hit the enter key. After you've done all of this, you hit the enter key on your keyboard. So that gives us 3.37. So now we're going to, let's go to the question. The question says, the rafter is cut from a standard size with width kept to minimum. So if you check here, these are the standard lengths. So a rafter is going to be cut from the standard length. Okay. So it says we should place in cell B10 a formula to look up the minimum standard length needed to make the rafter. Okay, so this is our rafter. So what length of wood do we need, all right, for us to cut our rafter from? So these are the standard size that this would come in: 2.4, 3.7, 2.73, 3.3. So what we had there is 3.37, and here we have 3.3, 3.36. Of course, you can't be cutting 3.37 from 3.3, so most likely we're cutting from 3.36. So here we are to look up the standard length from here, all right, using this as our lookup value. So this is what we do. We're going to be using the X lookup here. X lookup here for most of so click on the FX to show you how this should come. So we need our lookup value, which will be B9. Our lookup array will be this, the standard length. So highlight the standard length. We want our return array. Of course, we want to return from this array if not found. So whatever you enter here is what will be returned if what you are looking up for is not found here. So we want to return something. We don't want the if not found. So we'll come to the match mode. All right. So in the match mode, it says specify how to match lookup value against the values in the lookup array. Okay. So you could use numbers like -1, +1, all of that to match. So if you want an exact match, you'll be using 0. If you want something that is lower than what your lookup value, you'll be using -1. If you want something that is next, just after your lookup value, you'll be using +1. So you don't need to type the plus, just type 1. So it returned the 3.6, which is what we mentioned earlier on. So you click OK. So that's how you use your lookup formula. Okay, so we returned that. Let's go to our question and see. So it says here that we should place in cell B11 a validation rule to restrict data entry to only the sizes listed in row 21. Data must be selected from a drop-down list. So what that's saying is the size of timber must come from here. Okay, so what you do is you go to click on B11, then go to data, then here where you have your data validation, that data tools group, right? You click and do data validation. So under settings, we want to use a list. Of course, this is a list that we're picking out from. So use list, place your cursor in source and just highlight these cells. Okay, and you can take your screenshot and okay for evidence. And then if you click on this drop down, you can see the list here shows. So let's just pick on any random list and go on. We'll offer explanation as time goes on. Okay, so that was the evidence. Now it says place in cell B12 a formula to look up cost. Please, I hope you are not distracted by the noise in the background. Just concentrate. It says place in cell B12 a formula to look up the cost of the standard length calculated in step 5 using the size of the timber selected in B11. Okay, so I will explain. It says you should place in cell B12 a formula to look up the cost. So we want to look up cost. This is cost. So definitely we'll be using a lookup function to look up the size. In this case, we did this to return the cost. But then how do we know which of the columns we are looking at, whether column 1, 2, 3, or 4? Okay, all right. Now this is where the columns are numbered. All right. So this cost here is for anything, is for um, your timber that is sized. Um, all this cost here is for your timber that is sized 125 by 50. All this cost here, okay, is for the timber that is sized this. Is that okay? So now these are the column numbers for each of these. So in looking up this, we'll need to find what column we're looking up. We are going to return values from. Okay, I'll explain as I do the formula. So what you do is you come to your B12, enter equal to. So we're looking up this table. So we're using the V lookup. So it's a vertical lookup and not a horizontal lookup. So the value we're looking up is this, our standard length. All right, using that standard length to return the cost. So we enter a comma. Next thing is our table array. So what are we looking up? We're looking up this. This is our table array. And next is our column index number. So this is where it becomes a little dicey. So this is where we find our column index number. All right, either 1, 2, 3, or 4. So in order to do that, we will use a H lookup because it's a horizontal table now. We use a H lookup. All right, for our H lookup, this is the value we are using. Okay, B11, that's our lookup value. And then this is our lookup, our table array rather. And then our column index number in this case is column 1. 1, 2. So this is, sorry, column 2. This is column 1, or row 1. Yeah, row 1. We're turning row 2. So you click on 2, and of course you want to return an exact match. Now if you look at, if this is 1, all right, on this table now this will be 1, and this our 1 here becomes 2. So we need to add a 1 to this to give us the correct value. Then of course we want to return an exact match. Close that and hit enter. So if you look it up, so if you are looking up 3.6, which is this, at 150 by 50, what you should be returning is 15.1, and that's exactly what we have here. So this is how that is done. All right, so let's go ahead and finish the cell. So it says we should match cells A1 to B1. All right, so okay, cells A1 to B1, this is A1 to B1. Go back to home, and then merge and center, and then can close this, we don't need it anymore. So merge and center, and then it says format the merge cell with a white 18-point sans serif font on a black background. Okay, so let's make this 18 point. So text is white, background is black. Okay,